Hey everyone, this is Louis7, and in this video I will be going over the new virtue system overhaul in the Lord of the Rings Online. If you're unfamiliar, the new virtue trait system was significantly changed in the recent update 24. There is still some base similarities to the old system, but enough has changed that almost everything about the system and virtue traits is different now. In this video I will be going over the new system and giving an overview of how it works and a mini review of my thoughts on it towards the end. I will also have another video on the system later, but I'll connect back to that at the end. Moving on, the new virtue system is similar to the old system, only in that the virtues exist as stat-giving traits and you can progress them through deeds. A lot else is different though. So to start off, let's just go ahead and open the trait panel and see what it looks like, and you can see the UI has significantly changed. I still have the traded slots up here and there are 5 slots. I have 5 virtues up there, but the rest of this just looks a lot different. It's a lot more blocky. I think the UI is a lot more clear now. You can hover over the virtues, see what they do, and you see little bars here for progress. You see I have like 10 and then 11, which would indicate leveling it from 10 to 11, and it says 10 out of 60, so there are 60 levels as we see. And if you hover over the virtues, you can see what stats they give. You also can see passive bonuses at the end. So now I will swap to explain some of those changes, then we can look back at the panel again throughout this. But as we saw, we will still slot up to 5 virtues at the top of the panel, but in the new virtue system, virtues now require virtue experience to level them up, instead of just being based off of ranks. The level cap for virtues is now 60, but this is based off of character level. For example, at level 60 on the legendary servers, the virtue level cap is 30, which is exactly half that for level 120 characters. The way the virtue XP system works is you select a virtue to earn any virtue XP you get, and this way you can choose which virtue you want to level and work on first, and you aren't pigeonholed into certain deeds to work on that virtue, so there's a lot more freedom here to begin with. Now to do this, we just select the virtue we want to be earning. It's as simple as that. You can select one that is slotted, which has the gold borders around it here, or one of the ones that's not slotted. As we see, wit here is level 0, so I couldn't even slot that, but to actually earn virtue XP on it and level up, so I could equip it, you just select it to be earning, and it's that simple. You just click the icon and that's the one. Any virtue XP you get will go towards that now. And I do want to note, if you do not have anything slotted, you will not waste virtue XP. It still gets allocated to your first slotted, or it just moves down a priority list if there is one at the cap where you don't have one slotted, so just no need to worry about that at least. You can earn virtue experience from deeds that previously awarded virtue ranks, but there are some new ways to get virtue XP now. This includes in-game repeatable quests, festival quests, and feature challenges, which I believe those are in-game weekly quests. But while we do have a lot more virtue ranks in total to get, we also have a few more options to get virtue XP and level them. For old items that granted virtue ranks, like from the LOTRO store, they now give you virtue tomes, which give 1000 or 2000 virtue XP in most cases. But I do want to note these are no longer available from the LOTRO store. I don't know if they intend to add tomes like this that give virtue XP to the store later. I assume they would, just to monetize it. But we can go ahead and move on to the virtues themselves. So virtue stats are changed quite a lot actually. A lot of them are going to be way better than they were previously, but there are some odd ones that still have poor stat allocation that aren't going to be the best. And they still have primary, secondary, and tertiary stats, and the biggest change with these stats is virtues now include offensive stats like mastery, critical rating, and finesse, so you can choose better virtues for your character's build, so that is nice. So if we look in-game here, we can just go ahead and look at the stats of all the virtues real quick, and we see like charity, it has resistance, physical mitigation, vitality like it used to. A lot of defensive stats on that one, same with compassion. It's got some nice mitigation and armor value going on with it. Confidence, one of the ones I have equipped, is an offensive stat one, so this is new to us. It has critical rating, finesse, and evade rating. The evade rating is a bit odd on that, but for critical rating and finesse, it's going to be better for also offensive stats with that. And then we see determination. That one is familiar, that it used to have agility as a primary stat, even though primary stats are way worse than they used to be, so typically these are not virtues that you would want to really seek out compared to others, but in some cases you might. Anyway, this one has agility and then physical mastery and critical rating, so some good secondary stats on that with the mastery and critical rating, and again the agility isn't too bad, just main stats in general are a lot worse now. And then we have discipline here, which increases resistance, and then incoming healing rating and physical mitigation, so more defensive. And then empathy here increases armor value, critical defense, and resistance rating. Another defensive one, probably not the most ideal one, but the armor value can translate roughly into physical mitigation. It's not quite a one-to-one, but you could consider that a little bit. And then fidelity is a pretty good one if you want tactical mitigation because it gives vitality and physical mitigation on top of that. Moving on to the next column, we have Fortitude, which increases morale, crit defense, and resistance rating, so something to boost your total health pool while also increasing some of your defenses. We have Honesty, so our first raw mastery one. This one increases tactical mastery, and on top of that, it also has will and critical rating, so two other good stats for your offensive characters would be really good if you want to boost your DPS some and you are not at the mastery cap. And then Honor down here increases your maximum morale, tactical mitigation, and critical defense. Another really good defensive statted one that also will increase your total health pool, so that one is a nice one as well for something like that. If you want to be like just more defensive, any like trait like this, I guess I'm getting at, any virtue trait like this is good for DPS if you want to be more defensive, but also good for tank to just boost your survivability there. Idealism does not look ideal because it still has fate, incoming healing rating, and then it does have maximum morale, but that one's not too ideal. Idealism is not. But your Innocence here, this one has physical mitigation, resistance, tactical mitigation, good one for mitigation again. And then Justice here is also not that ideal on first look because in combat morale regen is definitely not appealing. It does have some good secondary stats, but not that great. Loyalty is an old popular one. This one has vitality and then armor value and incoming healing rating. And this is the first vitality one, and I have Honor, which is the same rank. That one gives morale as the primary one, and this one gives vitality. So vitality can translate into morale because it is 5-to-1. So the loyalty actually gives more raw morale than Honor gives just from the morale bonus. So that is kind of odd to me and not something I'm a fan of. I think if it gives just morale, it should just give more morale than vitality gives in morale because vitality also gets other benefits. So if you're looking at something like that, vitality would always be better because it just gives more morale, but you do have to look at the secondary stats because loyalty has armor value and incoming healing rating, which might not be as appealing, but might be more appealing depending on your character's build and what you need. So again, a lot of flexibility with these options we've seen so far within the first two columns. I know I'm going kind of in depth with every single virtue here, but figured that would be pretty beneficial to go over all these. Next up, we have Mercy here, which increases evade rating, then fate, then 10 vitality. That one is another bad one with idealism. Patience is also another bad one, unfortunately. Increases maximum power, which is basically useless. 42 maximum power. Even at a high rank, this one I know is pretty bad. And then the evade rating is also not ideal, and a critical rating is okay, but kind of odd there, so not really a good one. Tolerance, we do have another tactical and then physical mitigation one with resistance rating in between, so another good one, and flexibility with your defensive stats. And then we finally get into a physical mastery one, which is appealing to my captain here, this specific character. And this one increases physical mastery, then finesse, then critical rating, so that one is nice for offensive stats again. Boost your DPS for your physical classes if you want. So now we have another main stat one with will. This one will also increase tactical mastery and finesse. So for the will, that's not the most ideal, but because you can get increased mastery and finesse with that, that one can be really nice. And then we have wit, which is the new one. This one increases finesse, then critical rating, and then your masteries. It gives both physical and tactical mastery. The primary mastery ones we've seen are physical or tactical, but because this one's a general offensive statted one, it gives both physical and tactical mastery, so it can satisfy both your tactical and physical classes for their DPS with finesse and critical rating as well. And then finally at the bottom here we get to the other main stat, which is might. This one gives might, then physical mastery, critical rating. Just like wisdom and determination, this one can be good. For the mastery and critical rating, it provides even if the primary stat isn't the best, and boosting your primary stat isn't by any means a bad thing. It's just not as good as raw mastery anymore. So that was a really long segment on each of the virtues, and I just hope that conveyed some of the flexibility here as we look at these. Just a lot of different options you have to boost what your character needs, even with the secondary stats if you want a little bit more resistance or critical defense or incoming healing rating or vitality or morale or mitigation, whether it be physical or tactical mitigation if you want some more damage maybe, and just go mastery route and the wit with finesse and critical rating, or zeal to get even more mastery, or maybe a tactical class you use wisdom and the ones that increase your tactical mastery and things like that. just a lot more options there, and I think a lot more flexibility with your character, how you can build them for what you need. So that seems like a lot of good things, and I just hope going through all that with me sharing my opinion helps you all see like how that can work for your character. So moving on from that really long segment, what you probably also saw when I was hovering over all these virtues this whole video is there's a passive bonus at the bottom. So the way that works is any virtue you do not have slotted, you just get that passive bonus to your character. So charity I do have slotted, so I would not get that, but moving down we have compassion here, which gives a passive bonus of 30 maximum morale. And that one will just increase my character's morale by 30 for not being equipped, and that applies to every single virtue that is not equipped. So you can get a lot of passive bonuses. You see a lot of them have either mastery or morale. A lot of the defensive ones will have more morale, and the passive bonus for the offensive ones will have mastery. So anything you don't have equipped there will give you that passive benefit. So if you have a lot of like the offensive ones already equipped, you probably won't get much passive benefit from the mastery, but by simply having the offensive ones equipped, that should outweigh it. And you will get a lot of morale from this. I think that is the biggest thing, just because there are so many that offer morale. Like as I hover over a lot of these, even the more, I wouldn't really consider them good virtues, and they aren't like clearly specifically defensive or offensive, like patience and mercy here. Even idealism, those all give maximum morale. So I will say the passive benefits might not seem like much on this character, but his virtue ranks are really low when they can actually be level 60. So the passive benefit gets a lot higher at level 60. For both the mastery and morale ones. So those are two pretty basic but beneficial things to your character, and this will mean that it will be useful to level every single virtue as much as you can, since you will get benefit from those unequipped. Unfortunately, this also means a rather insane grind. Looking at the numbers with these low level virtues, they may not seem strong, but the level 60 virtues, when all added together, provide significant mastery and morale to your character that will be beneficial. Unfortunately, I will say it is not overwhelmingly powerful to have them all capped with like the crazy stat inflation going on right now, but it is helpful at least, especially if you are an undergeared character. It can be pretty significant. But your old ranks for your virtues were transitioned into the new system, so you also do not need to worry about that. Feels like I'm getting into that point very late into this video, but moving on, the last thing to go over here, which is just a nice feature in general, is your virtue traits are saved with your class specialization tree. So for each trait tree your character has, you have an associated virtue trait set you can use, and this is one reason I'm here on my captain, even though it doesn't matter too much. This way I can just cover why this is a nice addition in the new system. So right now I'm spec'd DPS. Unfortunately I lost my trait points, or rather my build and all that, so I only have a few trait points spin, but just to generally show them in the red line here, and the virtue traits actually I have equipped are all the ones I would want in redline. I have a lot of things to increase my offensive stats, because we all know captains are weak right now in landscape, and I haven't found too much need to boost my defensive stats, but for the ones I do have defensively equipped, I have charity just because it's high level, so I get a lot of value out of it. But then I have fortitude as well, because it gives a lot of morale, and if I have loyalty higher, I might equip loyalty over fortitude, because again the vitality boost from that will be a little bit better than the morale. But fortitude at the same time does give better secondary stats, so it'd be harder to do a direct comparison with that. But yeah, that's what I have equipped for red here, because I do want some offensive stats, and if I wanted even more offensive I could with wit. So for my specific build on this character, I just have more of a hybrid, but yeah, you can do that. You can do a hybrid, some offensive, some defensive stats. You can do it however you want, so that is really nice. I keep talking about the flexibility, and that's just one thing I'm really liking about this, so I'm sharing it with you all. And in the red line, if I was like in a captain in a group, I might go for some more defensive stat ones, because boosting my own DPS wouldn't be too significant. So I can make sure I have like my mitigations up for my group, so I'm not taking too much damage, and I'm able to provide the most value to my group. If I were to say switch to yellow line here, which I actually don't have built, I do have some trait point spin in this, but same issue with the red line, I would probably look for something that increases my defenses, as long as I'm not already at the mitigation caps. And you can even use these to get to the mitigation cap, but yeah, just with working towards stat caps like that, if I was already at the mitigation cap, I would probably do things like a lot of the ones that give morale rather than just raw mitigation. But if I also need a mitigation, I could go with those. And something like charity could be good if I already had a lot of mitigation. This even provides a little bit of mitigation, but just to get some defensive stats that didn't directly go into mitigation. Even though mitigation is a valuable one, these are just other options. you do have if you don't need mitigation, but on this character I would actually need mitigation and probably wouldn't build like this. I would rather get some stuff that is valuable with mitigation. And in the tank line, I would probably actually just equip a couple of the mitigation ones from here. In landscape, I would need more physical mitigation, so I'd go with like compassion here, and then could get one with tactical mitigation. I think tolerance is good because it also gives a little bit of physical mitigation. But yeah, that just shows how I have this build actually saved here for the yellow line, and then I could just swap to the red line and it'd be right back to what I have. So I don't need to worry about switching the actual virtue traits when I switch between specs, which can be really nice, because now you do want often, or at least really often want, different things for your different specs, because you can choose what is more valuable to your character in that specific build you're working on now. So hopefully that part was a little bit helpful, so you all can see how you might build for your character depending what you need for tank, healer, or DPS, really depending what you're doing, support, even just anything you can do. Hopefully that was helpful for that. But that will be it for the guide part of this video, and as I promised, here is the mini review. Overall, I did not like the old virtue system, so just based on that, there's a pretty good chance of me liking this one better. In its current form, the virtues feel more impactful and like they can help me build my character how I want with the option of offensive virtues, and I think more properly statted defensive virtues. As I keep talking about, that flexibility is super nice. And I also just like the freedom of choosing which virtue I want to level whenever I get virtue XP. Another good thing about the system is that it saves with your specs, as we just went over and saw. So all that is nice, and at this point, if I were asked if I liked this system better than the old system, I would say yes. But now we do have to talk about the negatives, unfortunately. The new virtue system seems grindy, to say the least. I voiced this concern a lot during the Update 24 beta, and the grindiness seemed a little bit improved upon while they were working on the system, so that was good. They also did add some more ways to get virtue XP other than just deeds, but the problem I find is there still isn't enough virtue XP going around to keep this from being an extremely grindy system, and we already have like an extremely grindy LI system on top of that. But this is true especially now that virtues are a lot stronger overall and have passive benefits that make you want to cap every single virtue. So I'll have a whole other video on the single point, but simply put, I think there should be more ways to get virtue XP, especially even for low level characters. But watch out for that video if you're interested in some of the ideas and further criticisms, we'll say. I don't want to dwell too much on that in this video because there are a lot of good things going on with the new virtue system though. So that will be it for the virtue system revamp video with the Update 24 changes. I hope you all found this video useful and enjoyed it, and please do let me know your thoughts on the new system, especially with the potential grindiness of it. But if you did enjoy this video, please consider liking and subscribing for more, or joining my channel, and thanks for watching everyone.